Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today because I have a guest in my office, and he's going to help me discuss a very interesting issue. Talking about America after the 2022 midterm election, what is going to change? How are our lives going to be affected? And it's a big question. And the biggest thing to understand is instead of looking at it from a top down, like we often do on this channel, I want to look from the bottom up, look at the local politics, the local elections, and the results there, and see how is that all going to change for everyone in America. And to help me with that discussion, I have in a incumbent, a re-elected incumbent. It is Adam Brown. He is a friend of mine. He's someone I enjoy and happy to have with us.
Thanks, Mike.
Adam is here. He's a Johnson City, New York trustee, and he's going to be discussing with us what he sees going forward for America.
Sure. Thank you very much for bringing me on today, Mike. Pleasure to take some time here, talk to the audience about some things we're going to see, I think, at least in the future here. And like you said, it's going to be from the bottom up as people, in some regards, have hit a breaking point, and they're going to start focusing on what matters more to them rather than some of the national issues that I think people are kind of getting a little tired of hearing about. So I think America's kind of have reached their wits' end, and we got some big changes coming up in the next couple of years here. So again, thank you for bringing me in today to kind of discuss this, and looking forward to it.
Well, absolutely. I'm happy to have you here with us. So this is an informal conversation, and
Sure.
we, since 2008, this channel, No Soundbites Allowed, we've been inviting candidates and elected officials to come in at any time to discuss any issue that they wish and to make sure that the voters are informed. So we thank you for taking this opportunity. For full disclosure for everyone, I've known Adam for, we've known each other like 5 years now?
At least 5 years, probably closer to 10. Time goes real fast, Mike.
God, it's been going
I know,
by.
we're getting older.
Yeah. And I knew him before you ever went into politics.
Yep.
And so we're friends. We're
Before I ever got
familiar
involved with this stuff. Sure.
So let me start then with the first question. I think that's important. You weren't always into politics. You weren't always looking for elected office.
No.
What changed to make you decide, hey, I want to run in Johnson City?
Okay.
Sure.
So I'm raising my little girl, and she's actually a freshman in high school right now. She's 14, but about 5 years ago, when she was a little one back in fourth, fifth grade, we drove around Johnson City, and we saw this mall that was really dilapidated and empty, and we drove down Main Street, Johnson City, and we didn't really see anything that we could get out of the car and go explore. No fancy restaurants. There was no vibe. You come up Route 17 and you saw the old Endicott Johnson Victory building there, just an empty shell of its glorious past. So after talking to my family and a lot of friends, I got to a point where it doesn't seem like anything's really fixing our community. And with my background in communications and my passion for community and putting others first, I said, you know what? Let's start doing what I have to do to get involved, get into the political realm a little bit, and see if I can make some positive changes locally. And I'm really, really happy with the direction that the village of Johnson City is going in. And I also see a lot of positive things happening throughout Broome County. And, this is a good time to get involved, especially if you're younger. You need a new wave of enthusiasm sometimes pushing ideas forward. And that's what I think I at least bring on a local level here.
Now, I remember back when you first started talking about being interested in politics. And we spoke a little bit about it. And I made a warning to you at the time. I said, hey, be prepared. You go into politics, it's a tough field. You need a thick skin, and it's going to be a hard road. Are you serious about this?
Yeah, no, I'm totally serious about this. And I have aspirations for longer term political runs, even up. Like I'm a trustee right now, I might be running for mayor down the road. And And who knows where that leads? County executive, state senate, Congress in 20 years, who knows? But right now I'm focused on JC. But you did give me the warning about it. And it's so true. When you're in politics, you have to have a thick skin. People are going to personally attack you if they disagree with your issues or your policy. And you really have to separate this. This country it's the best country in the world, but we have two very divided parties that tear people apart. And sometimes we're all focused on what divides us rather than what unites us. And, it's been an adjustment for me a little bit to kind of take a deep breath. I'm not used to getting attacked. Not a lot of people are attacking me, which is good, but you have to have a thick skin and you have to look long term and not get involved in the day-to-day arguments that you could see on social media, for instance.
And I'm sure I've done my fair bit of that.
Yeah, and I've done my share.
enough.
I think everybody has, but you got to look big picture.
Sometimes you have to step back. And there's the daily issues, and then there's the bigger, longer term.
Exactly.
I think both are important. But to be fair, I think you're more... I'm probably more extreme or more, or further to the right than you are. You're more of a moderate. Right. But yet... you've had some challenges too.
Sure.
Now, to set the picture for people who don't know the southern tier of New York, who don't know the Broome County, Binghamton, Johnson City region, we are the largest hub outside of New York City, just above, about 15 minutes above the Pennsylvania border, about 4 hours from New York City. This used to be a huge industrial manufacturing hub, and since about the 1980s, it's been going down from that. About 40,000, 50,000 people regional in the immediate two cities. With that said, looking at the current environment, we have inflation, which, depending on the source that you're looking at, is somewhere between roughly 9 to some estimate as much as 15%. We're looking at a recession that, according to the Fed chairman, should be around until at least 2024. And I would say, based on the results of the 2022
probably
midterms,
after that,
probably 2025.
At least, yeah.
And New York State has problems. We have massive exodus of people for the last decade.
Yep.
Given that scenario, when you look at the local community, when you're listening to your constituents, what are they saying to you are the biggest problems? And what have you been looking at as trying to address it?
Sure. So every community has their own challenges. Johnson City has plenty of them, but really all of Broome. And you touched on a lot of them, right? So Broome County in general, manufacturing hub back in the day when IBM was here in Endicott, Endicott Johnson, Broome County kind of grew with this manufacturing and industrial kind of revolution, right? But nowadays, those factories don't exist. So you have a lot of empty warehouses, and you don't have that kind of economic rush up here that maybe happened 30, 40 years ago. So on a countywide level, we have to kind of address that. But for me, on a Johnson City local level, you touched upon inflation, right? So the cost of everything is pricing out the consumer. You can't go on your trips. It's harder to pay for food. Gas price is outrageous right now. Loans, banks, everything along those lines is really tough. So people right now, they're in a position where they don't have a lot of money or access to money. They're holding on to things, and they want to see the government working for them and making their lives better and giving them better opportunities. So it's good to see in the last couple of years some progress around here on the industrial manufacturing side. But to answer your question about Johnson City, what can we do, super local, for me at least? We're bringing in the Oakdale Commons facility, which will take kind of the rundown Oakdale Mall complex and just infuse a ton amount of life and energy into the local JC economy. Huge stores are going in there, restaurants, things to do. It will now be a destination for people to come into the area, have fun, spend money, stay for a weekend. This should help out with the hotel industry. You got to bring people into a market to really grow it. At the same time, we need to focus on Main Street development downtown. We're working on the the DRI, Downtown Revitalization Initiative. We have to fix our downtown and make it safe, make it clean, and make it a place where, people can go with their friends and their family and enjoy. And then you touched upon the mass exodus from New York State. We have lost more residents than any other state in the country, and they're going to South Carolina, Texas, Florida. They're getting away from the heavy, heavy Democratic policies that are coming from Albany right now. They feel that they can't afford to live here, and then, there's better things out there on the horizon for them. So we need to bring more into the state to keep people here. The policies from Albany need to be more family friendly, and sometimes, we're not really getting that. So that's why I decided to run again, to really make a difference here locally. But people want to see progress. They want to see development. It's not just about just having good ideas. It's about implementing those ideas and actually making changes. That's something that's been very dear to me my first few years in office. You see the changes visibly in Johnson City. You see positive changes around Broome County, and hopefully that continues out throughout the state moving forward.
Adam, my friend, even though you're my friend, I always ask fair but harsh questions. I'm known for that. Sure. Everyone knows that. So I have to ask you a question about the mall.
Sure.
For people who don't know, that was a major center. The Old Town Mall was huge for the community in the entire Broome County region. But it has failed over the last decade. We have seen many of the key businesses there have left, and it was pretty much a shell as of, before 2020. It was becoming a shell. Sure. Obviously, the pandemic devastated businesses.
Devastated a lot of industries. Nobody went out and did anything for 2 years.
And every business that was on the edge failed. I don't blame any government for what happened there once we locked down and shut down everything. Sure. Businesses failed. Do you have an idea of the time frame? You said businesses are coming back to the mall.
They are.
That we're going to see more people replacing what has gone, which people have been looking forward to. Do you have a time frame?
Summer of 2024, that mall will be rocking.
Okay. So I can hold you to that summer 24, we will see new businesses in there.
Yeah. I mean, right now you see construction cranes, and it's quite a work scene, a construction zone over there. We have the largest Dick's Sporting Goods store in the entire world coming in to where the old Macy's used to be, the House of Sport. That's going to be fantastic. You'll have people ice skating outside in the winter. Ice skating right outside, right there in Johnson City. There'll be performance event center in there, nice stores, nice restaurants, a completely different experience. And I do think it's going to attract a ton of people into the region, into Johnson City. And then you add that with some of the other things we're working on, and the future of Johnson City really is, it's like we've hit the fast forward button. We're really, really pumped about that. But these things take time, and we're hitting winter. It's a little harder to do some of these construction projects here locally from.
Well, we're upstate New York.
December through February. Oh, it's coming. It's coming, right? So December through February, I guess you got to do more work inside than outside because of the climate. But I think you're going to see the mall really transform back into a fantastic destination, probably by summer of 24.
So that's fine. At least we have a target now. I know many people have been saying, we have no idea. So it's coming. And if you're talking a month before or after, who cares?
And those time changes are fluid. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure things will be finished.
But if we're talking, by the end of 2024, we've got businesses there, that's a success. I look forward to that.
It's coming fast.
Okay. So let me ask, because there's another component to local politics. Sure. And that is obviously the students. For our region, there's Binghamton University, there's the SUNY Broome College of New York State. So that's a big part of our business. Matter of fact, there was the new pharmaceutical school, an outgrowth of Binghamton University that was introduced and started in Johnson City. One, how is the pharmaceutical school doing? Two, well, let's deal with that first, and then I'll ask my next.
Well, let's talk about BU a little bit. So the relations between Binghamton University and Johnson City, I believe, have never been better. President of BU, Harvey Stanger, the village board, Mayor Maney, everybody's working together to really enhance that relationship and kind of make Johnson City a home of one of the best universities in New York State. Binghamton University is maybe top 3 SUNY schools. I mean, you probably have Stony Brook in there, right? You might have a couple others, but BU is a fantastic institution of higher learning, right? So for us as a community of 15,000 to have this school here with a health sciences, a nursing program, science and research, it's fantastic, right? One of our biggest employers of residents is BU. They take up a lot of space downtown. So we're trying to work closely with the university to kind of, make that entire area of downtown JC that much more safer, lights, more lit pathways, better parking, better places for the students to go into the Johnson City community to eat, to play, to go to a bar, to go shopping, to kind of, enjoy what JC has to offer. So maybe for the last 30 years or so, there was a divide. Here's Johnson City and over there is BU. But we've really focused on integrating both, making the community one, making it whole, and having BU more of the everyday vibe and feel and energy of Johnson City. So really good relations with BU right now.
See, and that kind of goes into what I was going to ask as a follow-up. Obviously, Binghamton and Johnson City are college towns, as they say. We have large universities which feed into the community and obviously have a big impact when the school year is there. But at the same time, like every college town, the natives, the townies, as some would say, there's always that little bit of friction.
Sure,
and college students have one goal and, the townspeople, the rest of us have another. How is that integration going, especially as you're expanding the role of Binghamton University in the town itself?
Sure. So you have to understand that people who have been living here for 80 years, and then you have the students that come in for 3 or 4 years into our community, right? Like you said, there's 2 totally different goals there. So we don't want to have an adversarial composition here where we have people versus students. It doesn't have to be that way. So the things that we're doing are to make JC a better place downtown. It enhances the lives of the residents around BU. There's more to do. There's extra safety in the neighborhoods around BU. There's extra patrolmen going out there. There's more development happening on that side of town right now. So the people in that area, instead of looking at BU like, rolling their eyes and saying, the students are coming back here in late August or September, now they're starting to feel that, hey, we got more energy and vibe coming here. JC's coming to life a little bit. So that goes back to the overall kind of rebuild and revitalization of Johnson City, right? So if you don't have a good mall and you don't have a safe and productive downtown, and you don't have the right residential complexes and infrastructure in between, then you may have a divide between the people and the students. But when everything's building up and coming together and there's this energy and there's positive motion happening, you don't see that divide as much. And I think what we're happening now is BU's really, really happy with us. They're investing more into Johnson City. We're working closer with them than we've had in years. This is a really good time for the people that live in that neighborhood of town close to BU.
Okay. So we mentioned a divide, and this goes to the 2022 midterm elections. We've seen a large divide leading up to this in the nation based on politics. Some would like to try and make it a reference of race or sexuality or sexual preference, which I don't believe is the case when you ask average citizens. That's some of the elected officials at the top tiers use that as a pitch. But I think the average person, you can tell me if I'm wrong, are maybe more divided on politics, but not really any other issue.
Right.
Given that, if that is correct, what is the experience in Johnson City right now? Is it a political divide as bad as CNBC, MSNBC, even Fox would say?
No, Johnson City is not a divided community. Johnson City is a pretty united community. Now, we have people that do not like slight tax increases, me included. We have people that maybe don't love the idea that we're a college town, and we hear them. but we are not a community where the Democrats hate the Republicans and vice versa. And you can see that in the election results, from the midterm election here this week, right? So myself and Mary DeCina were reelected with 83% of the vote. It's not an 83% Republican town.
No,
right.
Not
In
at all.
fact, it's 55% Democrat. There are more Democrats in Johnson City than Republicans, yet 83% of the people went the side of the Republicans. Is some of that because of the governor race in Albany? You betcha it is. Is some of that because of a backlash against some of Joe Biden's policies? Probably. But we're not really a divided town. People care about their wallets, their gas tank, their fridge is packed with food, and that we're moving forward to a better era in Johnson City. So some of those divides you hear nationally do not trickle down into the ultra local community like Johnson City. Our community is pretty united about progress, revitalization, and moving forward. We have great people. They care about their families being okay, their kids' future. Johnson City, we do not have that divide. That divide happens more in larger cities and in other areas around the country where the Republicans and Democrats really break apart and fight for, in their respective corners.
So you're talking more like an LA, a Chicago, New
Yeah,
York City.
like go to New York City for, New York City. It might be 75, 80% Democrat. You don't stand a chance as a Republican to get elected in New York City, even if you have the best ideas.
Yeah.
You could go to Albany, a state senator, state assembly, man or woman could go to Albany and have the greatest ideas. But if you're outvoted in Albany 40 to 15, your ideas aren't going to pass. Right. So in those areas, you feel the divide more. On a local level, like the village of Johnson City, we want progress. We want unity. We want a better future than what we've seen in the last 30 years.
Let me ask you a question. And it's a very important one coming up. We know that since February, we have been aware there's going to be a global food crisis, 30 to 40%. We're seeing the crops have been collected, and it is coming out to be 30 to 40% less food in the world. It's already affected Sri Lanka, Ghana, Panama. We're seeing it throughout Africa, and it's happening here in America. We've got butter shortages. We've got baby food shortages. There are more. We're seeing the price of wheat products, corn products go up. And of course, everyone who's gone to the store, you buy eggs.
The cost of everything is tripled.
Everything's up.
For sure.
What is there anything that local communities can do, or that you have seen that have been done, or are being planned to be implemented, that we can make the public aware of?
Right. So those kind of issues, they really have to be tackled at the national level. And you see this with inflation. The state government could do certain things, certain rules and regulations on the state level to kind of help, for instance, the farming industry of New York State, keep costs low so people of New York State don't have to pay an arm and a leg for those basic food things. On a local level, it's pretty tough. On the county level, I'm sure a county executive and a county legislator can do certain things to kind of make it easier for people to have access to food at a certain price level, kind of cap how much a business can raise their rates and stuff. It's a serious problem on a global level. On a national level, by the time it trickles down to the local politics, there's really only so much that we can do here. It's really tough for any local mayor, local board to attack the global population issues, the global food issues. It really has to come from the governors, the state senators, state assembly, and then, in Congress, we have to pass better laws that protect the everyday, people. You cannot price out people from getting the food and the necessities that they need. And I think, right now with inflation getting so out of hand, we're hitting a point where people really are worried about, can I even afford what I need to live? And, if we don't solve the problems now, and if we just kick everything down the road, eventually you get down the road. Yeah. And then you got a major issue where you can't feed your population. So this is something that the United States Congress really and the governors need to get a hold of pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, on this program, we've been saying all year, and I think you've heard me say it before, go out, when you go out to the store, I know it's expensive, buy 10% more food, not hoarding, not panicking.
I'd save up a little bit.
But just buy about 10% more, buy some wheat, buy some rice, buy some canned foods, about 10% more than you normally would.
Mm-hmm.
Just do that every time you go to the store. That will help as we get through this. It's a year-long process. I mean,
it's a long process, right?
We have to get through the winter, plant, grow, and then sow the crops. So just do that and keep doing that.
It's good advice.
And I think that'll help a lot of people until we can get a better plan.
Right.
And I think you're right. It is a
top-down approach. A top-down topic there. But I do think that now Congress is starting to hear from their constituents about the problems that we face in the food world. This isn't something like, 20 years ago when climate change and global warming came about, half the people took it very seriously and half didn't. Mm-hmm. Right? With this food problem, I think it's way more than 50-50 on that line. I think everybody's starting to feel we got to pay attention to that a little bit.
Yeah, we all got to eat.
Got to eat.
We all got to eat. No matter who or what you are,
got to eat.
Got to eat. Looking at the midterm elections, there was supposed to be a red wave.
No red wave.
But there was a Republican victory.
It was a Republican victory, and we gained seats in a ton of places we needed to. Congress will probably flip red. Senate may or may not. I know there's a couple outstanding races, but that red wave was not as big. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting. And I think the party needs to take a step back at the national level and really think, you could be against Joe Biden, but it's not necessarily, working in the polls.
Well, let me ask you, looking at it from a different point of view, let's go back to, we're looking at the bottom up.
Yep.
Does the 2022 midterm elections, let's assume at this moment the trend is showing Republicans will take the House.
Right.
Let's assume that it's a perfectly divided Senate.
50-50, where it's 50-50 Kamala Harris gets the tie-breaking vote.
And she gets the tie-breaking vote. Let's assume that is going forward. How does the 2022 midterm affect, or does it affect, the local community?
Oh, it does. It does affect the local community because you have different leaders in place now. So on the national level, you talk about the House and the Senate. You may have a little bit of gridlock there where the Republican House can't get things through the Senate. Biden can't get things through. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. Checks and balances is good. You don't want one party control of the federal government. But with that comes some issues as well. On a local level, let's talk about Broome County a little bit, right? We have a county executive, Jason Garner, who's pretty respected by both parties. You have Assemblywoman Donna Lopardo going back. She's been there for 20 years. Yeah. People are really comfortable with her. And Sophia Resinetti, I love her to death. She's a fantastic, passionate woman. She's great in the community. But I think people feel a little comfortable with Donna Lopardo, and you may see more of the same coming from the assembly there. On the state Senate side, we go from very conservative Republican Fred Akshar. Now we go to Leah Webb, as Rich David conceded, I believe, this morning in a very close race. I think Leah Webb's going to change some things around here, making it a little bit more left.
A little bit?
A lot.
Leah is known. Everyone you've mentioned, I know personally, and I've interviewed Leah before. Leah is she's a far left-leaning politician, and that's not to disparage her. That's her politics.
Right. That's who she is. And
I said that. You didn't say that.
No,
saying that.
The thing that happened with Rich David, I think, did a great job in Binghamton over his 2 terms. I really think we have a lot. He came in with a lot of challenges. Yes. He worked really hard, and he fixed a lot of issues. He created a lot of good vibes there. But when they redistrict the state of New York, they included Ithaca into our state Senate map. And you're giving that to the Democrat Party. That is 9 out of 10 times a Democrat will win that state Senate seat just because Ithaca is so skewed to the left.
Well, me to reject, because I think it's important for the public to know, New York State had 3 different versions of our state lines.
Total mess.
And which brought it to the courts, New York State courts, because the lines were unconstitutional. That was determined by the courts themselves. In fact, in April of 2023, the lines are going to be redrawn again because they are still unconstitutional.
They are still a mess.
And a reflection of that is Ithaca was included in we're talking about the New York 52nd State Senate District, and Ithaca was brought in because it did imbalance it. It was unfair, and that will be redrawn. But the election
let's hope let's hope that's redrawn. Hope.
But currently, that means Leah Webb is in, and so go on.
Right, and that also means that until we redraw those maps, that Ithaca on the state Senate map, Ithaca is way more important than Binghamton. You could have somebody as popular as Rich David lose to somebody just because they only focus on the Democrats in Ithaca. So Republicans have a challenge here until they redistrict that map, that whoever comes, the Ithaca State Senate candidate, major issues for whoever wants to run for state Senate on the Republican side around here. So that's something we could follow in the next couple of years, talk about down the road. On local level, so let's talk. So Town of Union flipped all red midterm elections. Mac won supervisor. Nurtry and Koja, I believe, won the Town of Union seats there on the board there. Johnson City remains all Republican. Endicott, Republican sweep. Town of Union is all red right now. On the county legislator level,
that's also Republicans dominating 10 out of 15 seats.
Yep, it's a Republican legislator. There were some challenges to some of the Democrat seats. I know John Della Penna went against Susie Ryan, and John was out there hustling and meeting a ton of people. But at the end of the day, I think they feel comfortable at this point with Susie Ryan, similar to the Donna Lopardo situation, right? Just a comfort level. Right. We have, on a local level, we have Republicans running villages and towns. On a county legislator level, we have two out of 3 are Republican. But then the higher you go up in New York State, it shifts over to the Democrat side. So there's that's just the way it is. On the ultra local level, we have Republican policies, but we're being controlled by Democrat Albany pretty much.
Is that restricting what you can do? If we're seeing on the very local level, every day, your neighbor, my neighbor, on that level, we're seeing more of a conservative Republican.
Definitely. People on the streets up here are more Republican.
And so how is the state affecting, because the state, as we can see, from Hochul on down, that's being more Democrat progressive leaning. Sure.
Well, the Democrats hold the big money in the state of New York. New York City, in some regards, funds much of upstate New York, and the decision making, for better or for worse, in my opinion, is coming from Albany and New York City. So they're controlling the money. They're controlling a lot of the funding mechanisms that go out to the local governments. And that kind of handcuffs the local government sometimes when you're putting in for grants and you're waiting on money to come in, or you're applying for certain funding, and it's in the hands of the Democratic leaders as to which municipality or where am I going to put this money. So there are challenges and obstacles presented when you have Republicans local being kind of looked down from Albany or New York City from the Democratic end, right? So it's a little bit restrictive. Local governments can do what they can for their residents, but we pay a ton of money in New York State taxes. I think we're one of the highest tax states in the entire country, right?
We are.
So, that money is going to a Democrat governor there to do what you want with it, right? And then you have a Democrat president there calling some shots on a national level. So it is challenging. It's restrictive a little bit. It worries a lot of New Yorkers. It's one of the reasons that so many New Yorkers are leaving New York State for other states with more Republican leadership, Carolinas, Florida, Texas.
Right.
It's a challenge. But on the local level, again, I think there's a really positive momentum locally here. People want changes in their community. They want more to do in their community, keep taxes low, safer streets. But inflation, migration, a lot of the funding mechanisms are coming from Democrat Albany and above.
Let me ask you, given that we know the directive from the top of New York State government is in opposition in many ways with the local government. And that's me saying that. Those aren't your words. Those are my words. With that statement, how is your relationship with local Democrats? I mean,
Really
we know the public voted for you as a Republican
Huge
overwhelmingly in a district that is overwhelmingly Democrat.
Right.
But how are you getting along with those politicians?
So I get along really well personally with the Democrat Party. I have a lot of friends in the Democrat Party. My mom's a Democrat. Some are my friends. And again, I don't look at the world of politics as a cup with a D on it and a cup with an R on it, and you're just going to go to your side, right? On a local level, it's not about what national party you believe in, because we're all neighbors. Johnson City is 15,500 residents. You go 3 miles in any direction and you're out of Johnson City.
Yeah.
Right. So we're a small community. We're all on the same team. We may have different viewpoints of national politics, but we all want our streets paved. We all want our taxes down. We want our mall to be a destination where everybody comes in and has a good time. We want things to do in the community. We want our crime down. We want more happening in our parks. Right. So we all have the same goals. Maybe the way to get there is a little different. But Karen Beebe's a Democrat. She just served for a while on the county legislature before Louis G. won that race. I get along great with Karen Beebe. Jason Garner's a Democrat on the county level. I get along fine with him. On a local level, it's not so bad. You could cross party lines a little bit because we're really the same community with the same goals. On a national level, it's a little bit harder.
Okay. Well, no one ever asks that of people. You know, I don't think I've heard anyone ever ask a politician, local or
how do you get along with the other side?
No one ever asks about that.
Because it doesn't have to be the other side. We may disagree on who we want as president, and we may disagree on certain national things that the Supreme Court deals with, like abortion, for instance.
Yeah.
But on a ultra-local focus level here, we are all neighbors, we're all in the same community, and we all want the same thing for our future.
Matter of fact, let me ask you this, because again, we're told one thing by national news outlets. Let's ask the local question.
Sure.
We're hearing the election was based on, in many ways, big issues. Whether or not abortion will be codified, even though in New York State, abortion, even late-term abortion up to the moment of birth, is legal, whether we agree with it or not. That is law of New York State. The Supreme Court decision did not alter that in any way, and it remains. Late-term abortion still is the rule of New York State, whether we like it or not. But we were told the election was about abortion. The election was about climate change. New York State leads many countries in the world in abortion, in climate change. The United States absolutely leads the world in the reduction of greenhouse gases more than all of Europe and the United Kingdom combined. Absolutely.
Yep.
Climate change is a problem with, my position is, and the data shows, climate change, greenhouse gases, is a problem of China and India. Each of those nations makes more greenhouse gases than the United States reduces every year.
Right, but not to cut you off there, but
no, it's fine.
We handle our issues nationally. Our country, we tackle some of these climate change issues and emissions and stuff like this. It's hard for the United States to enforce China to follow those same rules and regulations, or India, right? These other countries that are producing quite a bit of the problem don't follow the same solutions and ideas to fix it as we do.
Right.
So it's fantastic the United States, really tackles this issue, but we have other countries around the world that are not on the same page.
So my question, which is true, and I agree, and I think many people, when you look at the data, would agree, but here's the big thing. On the local level, when you speak to your constituents, are those two issues the big things driving 2022, 2023?
No.
Okay, then what is?
Kathy Hochul versus Lee Zeldin was a big factor on a local race. Taxes were a big factor on a local race. Progress, revitalizing Johnson City. So if you ask somebody who's running for state senate or state assembly this question of what drove voters, their answers would be different than me particularly, right?
Fair.
In Johnson City, people want to see progress. They want change. They want to see more for their tax money. They want JC to be safer. Crime was a huge issue on the ballot. Lee Zeldin really focused on bail reform and cutting back some of those rules that have enhanced our crime statistics in New York State. This was an election based on crime, based on inflation, based on gas prices, based on the cost to live in New York State. Are you getting what you should for the immense amount of cost to live in New York State? On a Johnson City level, our opponents came at us with taxes are high. You know what I mean? Of course, nobody likes high taxes. I voted against the budget because I thought that we had more time to kind of tackle some of those tax issues. Taxes are worrisome. Crime is a problem. What's happening in your community is a problem. On a local level, those are the issues. On a statewide level, it really came down to crime with Kathy Hochul. Lee Zeldin really pushed that pretty hard. And then on the congressional level, it was more about economic issues. Tackling inflation, bringing more opportunity to the constituents of Broome County. We're kind of phased out by Albany on a lot of local stuff here. So we can
bail reform is across the state. We get no choice on that.
We get no choice on that. And I've talked to the district attorney. I've talked to our police chief. I've talked to prosecutors, and their hands are really tied with this.
Yeah.
There are new discovery laws that make it almost impossible to really, put the criminals behind bars. And then we leave it up to the judge what to do. And a lot of the time the judges are like, here's an appearance ticket, come back in 4 months. Well, if I'm a victim of a crime, I don't want the perpetrator or suspect on the streets for the next 4 months.
Yeah, possibly. Well, we've seen
they may not come back, or they may create 5 more crimes while they're waiting.
We've seen both of those things
right.
happen.
So I disagree strongly with the bail reform stuff, and I actually think a lot of Democrats aren't happy with it either.
Well, we've been seeing across the state and across the nation where these ideas have been implemented. The result has been higher crime, higher violent crime. Even if Kathy Hochul wants to deny it, the data,
the numbers
from
are the
New York
numbers.
State
You can't deny it. The facts are facts.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess. And the problem is, and you saw this during her debate, and you heard this a little bit when she was campaigning, is she does not understand the scope or the magnitude of the problem. She thinks, she's doing some great thing for justice, when in fact you're really hurting communities in the police forces.
How is Johnson City doing with crime? Is it up, down? Is it managed? What's happening?
So Johnson City's pretty managed with crime. We have a great police department. Chief Dodge does a great job. We have a good police force. Then they get everything they need to fight crime. There is frustration when they work so hard to arrest a criminal and then he's out on an appearance ticket after a couple hours. So one thing that our chief has done is share with the public the decision the judge made to let this person walk, right? Let the public know that because of the bail reform laws, this person who committed 2 robberies, 3 burglaries, and a sexual assault right now is actually who knows where. There's an appearance ticket for next June. This judge set that ruling, right? So by calling out the issue, we've let people know how much this really hurts our community. We have a great police force. We've done a good job keeping crime under control. It's not as bad in JC as I think people think it is. It's really not.
Well, perception doesn't always match, as we often
say. Right, but you always hear perceptions, reality, and stuff like that. I'm telling you, Johnson City is not a crime-riddled community. We have it under control. We have a great police force doing the best they can. People should feel safe in JC, and with a lot of the programs we have coming, the Main Street renovations, revitalization stuff, Johnson City will only get safer in the future.
Okay. So I have 2 questions, and we've been talking for about 45 minutes. And I think we've covered a lot of ground
Yeah, no,
on
it's
many
great.
issues.
Thank you.
And there's still many, many more we could probably
We
talk
could talk
about.
for hours. I'll come back next month. We'll keep this going.
There you go.
If your viewers are enjoying this and want me back.
I think they'll be very happy to hear this. But let me ask you, overall, given everything we've talked about, given what we're looking at coming up, do you have, looking at it from a local point of view and then a national, do you have a positive outlook or a negative? Because many people are worried about the potential of a civil war.
I don't think we'll have a civil war. I don't think so. I think I'm a very positive person in general. My campaigns have always been 100% positive. It's so easy in this day and age to hide behind a computer screen and just complain about everything on Facebook. Mm-hmm. It's always easy to take the negative aspect of it, but I really try to focus on the positive. What can we do in Johnson City to make the lives of our residents better? What can we do on the county level to make Broome County stronger, more lucrative, and a better community for everybody? What can we do on the state level to kind of attack some of these issues? I am more positive about the state of the world. Now, that being said, there's some major issues out there, major problems, and maybe we have a war coming up with Russia or China. It could happen.
Or we can see North Korea reactivate.
North Korea is shooting missiles off every morning.
Missiles.
I mean, what are you doing, Kim Jong-un? Like, what are you doing? So we are not in a stable place on the globe right now. Our world is not stable. Wars may happen. It's easy to take the negative aspect of it and focus on the inflation and focus on the crime problems and the wars generating. It's easy to do that, but I always want our people to focus on the good in life, right? Focus on the parks being renovated, the streets being repaired, the new businesses coming into town. Focus on family values. Focus on getting good educations, good job opportunities for people in the marketplace. The world can be a nasty place and it's easy to get negative. And I just tell people, focus on the positive. You will live a much more happy life.
That's a great message, because we do. And I know I do it myself.
Everybody does it, and I get negative too, and I got to tell myself, let's focus on all the good. You know, and that's a better way to live your life.
We don't do that as a society. We don't do that enough. I agree with you. Before, my final question is always very simple, and that's anything we haven't covered yet or anything that you think we may have missed. But let me ask before that, a very important question for the first time. Whenever someone's the first time interviewing with me, a politician, I always like to ask them. I have a reputation of being harsh, or I have a reputation of being hard. But how did you feel so far?
Awesome. I've known you for almost 10 years now, Mike. I have a lot of respect for you. You can ask the hard questions. That's your job as a journalist. But you got to be fair. Mm-hmm. Cover it from both sides and call a spade a spade. You can ask the hard questions. The people deserve their representatives to answer hard questions. It comes with the territory. We talked about having a thick skin. Mm-hmm. Come at me. If I make policy or if I do something that is not in the best interest of the people, I deserve to hear it.
Yeah, I think that's true of every politician.
Exactly.
Regardless of who they are or what party they are.
Exactly, right? If I'm doing a good job or bad job, that will show in the votes of the people on election day. And for me to get 84% of the votes in a more Democrat than Republican community speaks a lot, right? People on both sides understand that I'm keeping it positive. We're bringing JC back to life. We're listening to their issues and we're doing action on it. So it's going back to the journalism question, ask the hard questions, keep me on it, bring me back. And, harsh is okay. Get to the truth.
That's the way I like to look at it. But I always like to ask people because
I can take it.
It's hard to, it keeps me honest. It keeps me on, am I being honest?
But let me ask you some questions now. Let me ask the host some questions.
Go for it.
Why did so many people vote for Kathy Hochul that she won the governor 54-46, I believe?
Because I believe partially because the message across the nation was abortion and climate change. So a lot of people had that on their mind. A lot of people believe that climate change is going to destroy the world. There's a lot of people who believe that women don't have their rights or they're in danger, even though all evidence doesn't show either of those things to be true. So there's that. There was a lot of fear-mongering in the election. We also had the major media denying things. Remember, Lee Zeldin, as an example of the danger of crime, he was attacked on a stage that we have video, and I actually...
Oh, I know. Not only that, his family.
Well, no, I was going to mention that too.
His kids are hiding in a bedroom upstairs when there's gunfire out on his front lawn. I
had the actual person who took the videotape of him live on the stage as he got attacked. And we had him talking about his children being at home and having someone shooting outside of his door. And we've heard about Nancy Pelosi. Now, this is national, but Nancy Pelosi, someone, as we understand it, as it's now being reported, is broke into her home, attacked her husband. So we're talking horrible. The Speaker of the House, third most powerful person in the nation, down to Lee Zeldin, a congressman and also a resident running for governor. If they're having these problems,
anybody can have a problem.
That's really dangerous. But we're told, the answer is, I just need to pass one more gun control.
Right.
I need to just pass one more law, and then you'll be safe. And people want to be safe. They want to believe they're going to be safe. That's not what we're seeing actually happening.
People are worried out there.
But why did she win? Because people want to feel safe. And the media is telling them this will make you feel safe.
Yeah.
No one's addressing the question of what is actually factually making you safe.
I went to Syracuse for communications and I have a good background in the media. And it always, I find it strange. Why is the media a little bent to the left? I don't get it. And we see it locally, negative views of things that shouldn't be negative, and very skewed reporting. And I don't understand why it has to be that way.
Because it's hard. I'll tell you what.
Shouldn't be
my understanding of it is hard to deal with the facts and the realities. One of the reasons I like to believe I do a very good job. Mm-hmm. I'm very fact-based. I go back in time and I look at the details. And that is hard because you have to pay attention, you have to do your homework, and you're responsible for the results. When you're dealing with facts, it doesn't matter how you feel about what happened. It's, did it work or not? Is it efficient or effective? But when you're dealing with it from a left-leaning, more emotional aspect, the important thing is, how did you feel? Mm-hmm. Well, it's easy to make people feel good about something that isn't factually good.
Right.
And so that's why you've seen the left. I think it works out to money and power. People feel good in that moment. People who feel good will spend more money. They will pay more attention to your entertainment, to those individuals. And so therefore, they're going to be better off. Someone dealing with facts and saying, well, you may have felt great, but I'm sorry, it didn't work.
Right. Well,
is not going to do as well. So that's why I think we see more left-leaning media, and why the media is more left-leaning. It starts with, it makes them more money.
I know. At the end of the day, they're trying to sell newspapers, ads. Yeah. I totally understand.
And then power follows that. The money is there, so the power goes to it to get that money. And it's a cycle that keeps going. It's a vortex. Keeps going down.
All right. I got one more question for the host.
Absolutely.
All right. So Johnson City elections went 83-17 to the Republicans. And we're both parties were really happy with the direction JC's going in. What have you heard as a Binghamton resident about Johnson City? What's kind of the word in the streets outside of the village about the direction that JC's going in?
Two different conversations. There's the general conversation, and then there's, I hear, the fringe position. I'll say it that way. So the general public, average person walking down the street who really doesn't know anything about politics, they're the people who say, I don't follow politics. Average person walking down the street. And they say things are changing. They say they see things are moving, and actually they're happy about, something's happening there.
Right.
Because for several years, it failed. And they were like, oh my God, this is bad news. Right. So seeing something there, they're positive. It's a positive outlook to say, no, something's happening that's better.
Right.
Now, I tend to hate the words do something. I don't like politicians.
Right. Now, you don't want to
saying,
just do something.
Yeah.
You have to
I want something
strategically
effective.
enhance. Yes, exactly.
But we are seeing something effective.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's the most positive there. There is something they can see. There are stores that have opened. It has been redesigned. Yeah. We are seeing a positive influence.
Good.
The fringe, on the other hand, are saying what they generally say.
Right.
It's not enough. It's not what they want. It's not helping their issue. They have a more tailored view of what should happen. Not enough is being given to them and their issue.
Right. Again, you can't make 100% people happy, but at least in JC, I guess we're making 88% of people happy, I guess. But, and it's not only about the mall. It's about bringing code into JC and really, really focus on cleaning up our streets. It's about downtown development. It's about bringing more people into JC, protecting the residents and their rights, making it a better community near BU. We're doing a lot of great stuff. We've enhanced every park. JC's moving in the right direction. I think people on both sides like it. So, again, thank you for bringing me in today. And
Absolutely.
If you want to do this again next month, I'm right here, buddy.
I would love to. And just for people to know, we've been talking about this for a while, but
it's good to get
our
rolling.
schedules are crazy. You're elected, we work. It's crazy at times, but I'm really happy that we finally got the opportunity to sit down.
For sure.
And I have, and I will say it again for every politician out there across the country. I've been saying it for 17 years. You are always welcome. Candidates are welcome on this program. Politicians, elected officials are always welcome on this channel. Whether you agree with my positions or not, I don't care. You will always be given a chance to say whatever it is you want to say about whatever issue. And you've taken me up on it, and I'm happy that you did.
Do it again, Mike.
Definitely.
Thanks.
Folks, this has been Adam Brown. He is a Johnson City Trustee, and we look forward to seeing him again. Please leave your comments below so that in the future we can ask Adam more questions if anything wasn't addressed. And like, share, subscribe.
Thank you, everybody.
I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference. When you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares, and your subscription, you make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you.